Hi, this is Brian Resney, President of Resney Wealth Management. I'm bringing you an important update about the economy and the markets, as we do every single week. We're seeing some volatility, obviously, in various markets throughout the world. There is obviously a little news about maybe Greece defaulting on their debt again. These are all basically, in my opinion, temporary setbacks and small pullbacks, which could create opportunity for you, the investor. As any time that you see changes in the environment, economically, and we keep hearing about sovereign debt and so forth, and we keep hearing about the United States, and are they going to default on their debt one day? Anything is possible in the realm of investing. But what you really have to do is look at the hardcore facts, and instead of making emotional knee-jerk reactions to your portfolio, you need to make sure that you make sound investment decisions that are going to help better your portfolio in the long term. I've done a lot of talks about commodity prices and so forth, and where I see things headed on the long term. Short term, today, tomorrow, next week, nobody really knows where the direction of any investment sector is going to go, whether that's real estate, bonds, stocks, precious metals, commodities, oil, what have you. But over the longer term, I firmly believe that we're going to continue to see higher prices, not only in the oils, but all commodities across the board, simply because of the world growing into a more mature area around the world, like the United States is. These emerging markets will continue to grow. People are going to continue to want to live better lifestyles. That means more use on commodity-based products, obviously primarily oil and food type commodities. I think a lot of investors today are still kind of sitting back, worried, and really not reacting positively with their portfolio when a change needs to be made. And I continue to get email questions throughout the week, throughout my show, on Sundays, and basically, it kind of keeps coming back. People just almost don't know what to do, so they're paralyzed in doing anything. And when it really comes down to it, it all goes down to the investment strategy. If you don't have a real investment strategy and it's in writing, then you're not going to follow anything. If you're going on a trip somewhere, you usually use a GPS or a road map. If you don't know where you're going and you're not using one of those two tools, you're probably not going to get there, or it's going to take you a much longer time to get there, meaning it costs you more money. With your portfolio, I would say easily in excess of 9 out of 10 people that come in and talk to our firm and hire us to manage their money have never had an investment strategy and have never had one in writing. They think Mr. Broker, so-called advisor, is actually managing their money, when in fact they're really not. They're just selling them investments. Unfortunately for you, the investor, as you go through your lifetime, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, the longer you continue to make mistakes with your portfolio, the more it's going to cost you, not only in return, but also in your financial security and retirement. I had a couple that actually hired us not too long ago, and their big comment was, Brian, we're 70 years old. We're not going to be around much longer. And I asked them, how long is the longevity typically in your family? And both of these individuals were well in the 90s when their parents passed away. So what I tried to explain to them, even if you're in your 70s or 80s, realistically, you've got a very long time ahead of you, especially if there's longevity in your family. So don't think just because you're 70, you're not necessarily a long-term investor. These people could be around 20 more years, meaning their portfolio is going to have to be around 20 more years and grow in order to combat inflation's negative effect. So regardless of age, remember, folks, it is what you do today with your money, and that you follow a disciplined investment strategy, and more importantly, that you make changes to that portfolio based upon that strategy as necessary. I continue to outline areas of the economy and the markets that we like. And unfortunately, I think a lot of investors, because of the way that their money is basically being sold within a brokerage account, is really in two primary asset categories, and that would be stocks and bonds. And I've talked about this repeatedly, again, on my show, but if I look at a typical person who comes into our office and we review their account, because they're typically dealing with a broker or a so-called advisor, the primary two asset categories in that portfolio are stocks and bonds. I always ask people, what about all the other areas of investing, the other opportunities that are non-correlated to the stock market? And again, if your portfolio is made up of stocks and bonds, and those two areas are not doing well, or they're overvalued, what do you do with your money? There's many other categories, and I've talked about those. What about commodities? What about precious metals? What about the oil market? What about currencies? There are so many other areas and avenues that investors can diversify into that are non-correlated to the stock market or the bond market. So whether you're looking for growth, income or you're trying to hedge and protect your portfolio from either one of those, it's important to realize that alternative asset class investing, as I mentioned earlier, is more important than ever. Don't be blind in the fact that thinking the only place to stick your money is in stocks and bonds. Often you need to diversify in other asset categories, because often those are going to be the ones that are going to have the greatest opportunity for you in the future, not only during retirement, but throughout your complete retirement. This is Brian Resney with the Resney Wealth Report. If we can help you manage your portfolio, if you're finding that the person you're using is currently really just a Wall Street broker, brokerage firm, insurance agent selling annuities or mutual funds all for commission, and they're not working in a money manager capacity, you do not have a written investment strategy, or you don't have an investment advisor, a registered investment advisor under a registered investment advisor agreement, anything less, as I always talk about, than the fiduciary standard is just sales. Sorry about that, but you need to look at your accounts. You need to make sure who you're dealing with is really working in your best interest. Call our firm. We'd love to help you in a manner that's prudent for you and under a legal obligation to work in your best interest. Don't think your so-called advisor is doing that, because chances are they're not. This is Brian Resney, and until Sunday show, have yourself an extremely profitable week.